bicycle kick. Goal! Rowdies. What a play. What a shot. And it's touch to be had. Aaron Guillen. Lasso. Elevating. Yeah,
it's Tampa Bay Rowdies who have made a huge upset.
Your 2021 Eastern Conference champions.
A 10 bicycle. Oh, that is a delicious goal for Tampa Bay.
And now, you're tuned into Tampa Bay's RBLR Sports.
What is good, Tampa Bay? My name is Eureka Wheeler, and I'm not the usual guy you see in these chairs here at RBLR Rowdies. What a crazy week it has been for the USL. What a crazy week it's been as we get ramped up for our Rowdies to start playing real games. But there's a ton of really good scrimmages, friendlies, whatever you want to call them, going on. We actually already had an episode just 24 hours ago. So for those of you that are returning, thank you so much. But in the meantime, our lads have played a friendly versus South Georgia Tormenta FC, as well as a friendly against Montreal of MLS that I got to be there with my eyes and ears. So we're going to get into all of that, and you should absolutely go watch the episode that we live streamed yesterday and distributed today on all major platforms with our guest Kartik Krishnaiyer, as they went into all of the most of the questions, most of the there's way more questions than answers when it comes to Division I USL. But Kartik, James, and Carlos, all three of them were able to just kind of attack it from multiple angles. And Kartik's a very well-versed person who has worked inside of multiple soccer leagues. So he kind of knows the ins and outs and what it might take. And a lot of the questions that we all have, I know it was a very eye-opening conversation that they had. So, but of course, you already know that because you are one of the hundreds, if not thousands of people who are subscribed to us here on our socials at RBLR Rowdies, and of course, youtube.com/@RBLR Sports. Let's not delay it anymore. We're giving you this double dose because the D1 stuff sort of rocked our whole schedule up. We had a wonderful conversation with Ollie Bassett. We have put that in the can, and now we were going to do that for yesterday's show, but I mean, over an hour and 20 minutes or an hour and 12 minutes of them talking about Division I, we decided to I said, hey, you know what? I can fire up the stream, and we can do just Ollie Bassett with a little bit of news and notes as its own standouts, like double dose episodes. So it's a great interview. Let's not waste any more time. Let's give you the main event. Take it away, James and Carlos.
And here we are, folks, with our interview of a current new Rowdies player and formerly of the Canadian Premier League, Ollie Bassett. Thank you for joining us today, Ollie. Before we get started with anything, easiest question, I'm sure. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm good. I've been here for a few weeks now, so I've just been settling in and getting used to, what it's like living in Florida. But yeah, I've settled in really quickly, so it's been really enjoyable so far. Yeah.
Awesome. My first question is related to that. Obviously, you are originally from England, and we signed you from Canadian Premier League team Ottawa. That is Atletico Ottawa. I want to make sure that I always want to say Ottawa Athletic because that sounds better in my head. But either way, that's neither here nor there. I'm assuming that it probably takes a little bit of getting used to Florida because in February, it probably was never this hot where you were from or have played previously. So what is it like getting used to moving here and living in these conditions?
Yeah, it's obviously it's taken some getting used to, I think, at the start. I think for the last 3 years, obviously, I've been in Canada and it's been, -20, -25 around this time of year. So, it's taken some getting used to. But for me, right now, it's kind of hot, but I've been told that it's only going to get worse. So, I mean, I don't know if I'm looking forward to that or not, but it's been nice so far. It's really been really nice.
Well, as a fellow redhead, I can only recommend that you buy a lot of sunblock. That's going to be very important getting forward. But that's my recommendation. Carlos, I'll turn it over to you now.
Yeah, Ollie, thanks for joining us again. Like I said, this is a blast. I think you were one of the first new players that got announced to the Rowdies fan base pretty early on in the offseason. Everyone was pretty amped to hear about your joining the squad. We haven't really had a chance to get to know you much, like where you've come from, your playing style, other than what we've seen in the highlights and whatnot. So this is a really exciting opportunity for James and I personally, but I think for the Rowdies fan base as a whole. So I'll reiterate my thanks for you joining us here. Tell us a little bit about your trajectory, your playing trajectory. You're 26, so still early on in your career, but you've been around the block in England and you've got to New Zealand a couple times. Tell us about your playing career and how it's all culminated here in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at my career on paper, coming from the UK, obviously I grew up in the Villa Academy. So I was in their youth system for 9 or 10 years, and then I dropped down to play in League Two. That was my first professional team, and then I think after that it was a bit, when you look at it, it's very unique. It's not something that is very common for a player of my age at the time to obviously go to New Zealand and Australia. But I think after I left the team in League Two, I dropped down and started playing non-league football in England. And I'm not sure if you guys know what non-league football is like, but there's so many players and so many different teams, and the style of football I didn't really think suited me at that time. And then I wasn't really enjoying playing football in England. So the New Zealand thing was more of just to get a different experience of life and still play football, albeit probably at a lower level. But then after playing there for a few years, I thought ideally I need to get back into playing, full time and playing professionally. And luckily enough, my coach from Pacific, my first team in Canada, who's now with Phoenix, he contacted my agent and offered me the chance to come to Canada. And I think I was 23 at the time, and for me it was probably my last real shot of playing full-time football and making a career for myself. So obviously I went there and did relatively well in the first year, and then I think that the last 3 years in Ottawa have kind of pushed me on to a higher level, and that's ultimately what's led me to come here. So it's been a bit of a journey and a unique journey, but I think the experiences I've gained and the countries I've lived in have definitely helped me for sure.
That's awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about those seasons with Ottawa? Because it seems like from the Twitter reactions from the fan base up in Ottawa, they loved having you there. They were sad to see you go. Always a good sign for us to see that kind of reaction from the previous club. Tell us a little bit about your time over there. Obviously, 22 goals, incredible production over there. Really stood out in the CPL. What was that transition to Canada like, and why do you think you seem to succeed so well in Ottawa?
Yeah, I think the transition from England to Canada, I think it's still a new league, so it probably gets overlooked a little bit in terms of the quality of the players and the quality of the collective teams. But my first year in Canada was obviously with Pacific, and it went relatively well. Collectively, we won the playoffs, but I wasn't playing as much as I would have liked towards the end of the season. And then obviously Ottawa was their second season in the league. They obviously have the backing from Atletico Madrid. That organization was obviously a big reason for why I chose there. But I just went there from the start just to play as many games as possible and make sure that I was starting week in, week out. And then 3 years down the line, I was fortunate enough to win everything there was to win, collectively and individually. And I mean, it was a massive 3 years for me, and it's definitely helped me turn into the player and person that I am now.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like you said, CPL is still a new league, and I think James and I have kind of been really intrigued by what's going on up there, how it's all developed. But obviously, CPL Player of the Year, Players Player of the Year awards for you, Ollie, is a pretty big deal, even in a relatively new league. That's awesome stuff. So, like I said, pretty exciting for us personally to see the resume when you made the move down here. But I think personally for me, even more exciting was seeing the fans' reaction from Ottawa. That's good stuff for us to hear that. James, take it away before I keep rambling about how fascinated I am in the CPL.
Well, I guess I would actually, as I was saying before we started recording, I am also interested in the CPL, and Carlos clearly has reiterated his own interest there. So before we do move on to the Rowdies, I want to delve down a little bit more into it, just slightly, and talk about what it was like not only at Ottawa, because I know, like you said, they had the backing of Atletico Madrid, which is, of course, Champions League club. Have won the title in Spain pretty recently, so there's a lot of pedigree there, of course. How much influence did they have on the day-to-day, and ultimately, how do you think that your time in Canada, how do you think that improved the player that you are, that everybody up in Ottawa, like Carlos said, was so upset to see you going?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think when I first went, obviously the Atletico organization had bought, a franchise in Ottawa, which obviously used to be the Fury, and then they obviously are now playing, completely separately from that. And I think when I first went, I probably underestimated a little bit of how involved they would be. Sometimes big clubs like that can just buy a franchise and kind of just, let them do their thing, and but they were very, they were very involved. Like, they were sending guys over from Madrid, directors and stuff like that, to really oversee and make sure that we were doing the right things. And I think as players, they gave us everything we needed to be successful, because their kind of reason was that we'll give these guys everything, and then it's up to them to kind of deliver. So yeah, from that point of view, they were very involved, definitely more than we probably first thought. And then personally, I mean, I'm a player. If I'm high on confidence, I'm going to be playing my best football. And I was playing week in, week out for the last 3 years. And I just think every time I stepped onto the pitch, I felt the confidence from my coaching staff and the fans and the guys around me. We had a very clear system on how we want to play. Doesn't suit everyone, but I think for us it worked. And then within that, I was able to individually kind of do my thing. So the last 3 years, like I said, have been huge for me, and I'm just looking to carry that over to the USL. And
now that you're here, I guess the first thing that Rowdies fans are going to want to know, of course, is what type of player you are, where you're going to probably see yourself on the field. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how much you can get into the discussions you've had with the coaching staff, of course. I'm sure that's all behind closed doors. But walk us through the type of player you are, I guess, who your influences were growing up and that kind of stuff, what we might be able to picture from Ollie Bassett in the green and gold.
Yeah, I think, growing up playing, I'm a midfielder. I think growing up before, and as I've matured, this has probably changed. But I think growing up, I was always a player that just wanted the ball, every single time his teammates had it. And I would probably drop a little bit deeper than my coaches maybe would have liked, just to get on the ball. But I think now, over the last few years, I've tried to, change my game slightly and stay higher up and accept the fact that I maybe won't touch the ball as much. But when I do, it's in, a more dangerous area. So you'll probably see me playing as a 10 or behind the striker or somewhere in between the lines. I think that's my best position, and that's where I can, be most effective. I like to score goals and, create chances for my teammates. So, I'm hoping obviously to do as much of that as I can this year. And I think growing up, obviously I had a lot of players that, I liked watching and liked to, take stuff from. But I think my favorite player growing up was, this might be surprising, but Santi Cazorla, who used to play for Arsenal. I think he was both-footed. He was only 5'5" or something like that, so I can relate to him in that sense. And he was playing at the highest level, so he was one guy that I used to enjoy watching, week in, week out. And I just think the way he played the game was just something that I appreciated.
Yeah, that's a good pull. I'll tell you that Santi Cazorla was one of my Ultimate Team legends back in FIFA.
Yeah, he was so good, man.
I think he might still be playing, by the way. I think he's still playing for his very, very local team, trying to help them get back into the top flight in Spain. So talk about a legend. That guy just has some real hunger in him to keep going.
Good for him. Ollie, let me ask you a little bit about this transition. Again, we've talked a little bit about maybe the heat, right? How that's going to be maybe a struggle. But what about the Rowdies was something that stuck out to you when this move came to maybe be a possibility for you, and you were thinking about making this move to the USL? What is it about the Rowdies that initially stuck out? Maybe the coaching staff, the players, the area. Tell us a little bit about what appealed to you in the Tampa Bay area.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the start of last year in Canada, obviously, I was going into free agency for the first time in like 3 or 4 years. And the USL was always a league that I was curious about, and if I got the right opportunity within the league, I would have taken it. And yeah, I think we started speaking to the club around towards the end of last season. We had a few calls here and there, and Robbie, the coach, kind of put forward how he sees me fitting into the way they play, and I think they play a similar system as to what I played in over the last 3 seasons in Ottawa. So that was something that was obviously nice to hear. It's a system that I've played in before and I understand. And yeah, I think from my point of view, obviously I spoke to guys that have not necessarily played here, but played in the league and came from the league. And I didn't ask them specifically about Tampa. I just asked them about the league itself. And most of the things they would say, they would always mention the Rowdies and stuff like that. And obviously Florida's a beautiful place to live, but I think the club itself is very well run. We have amazing facilities, training day in, day out. Obviously, I haven't been down to the stadium yet, but I've heard the stadium's, it's obviously grass as well, which is another thing that probably persuaded me to come here after playing on turf for so long. But yeah, I mean, I think everyone that I spoke to here and there obviously always had good things to say about it. And then, from there, the decision was fairly easy. I think as soon as it was put forward, it didn't really take too long to kind of agree on certain stuff. And then after that, it just moves, really quickly.
That's awesome. And now that you've gotten down here, like you said, training is in full swing. We're fully in the middle of preseason, towards the end of preseason almost now. Now we've had a couple preseason games under our belt, obviously closed door. There was Philadelphia Union 2 and New England Revolution out at IMG Academy, I believe. What can you tell us a bit about how those initial preseason games went? Obviously, the first games with other guys coming to play your squad, right? Testing things out, seeing how the players are gelling together. You got 1 goal in that game against Philadelphia. Can you tell us a little bit about how those games flowed for the squad, how they felt for you, getting some semi-competitive minutes under your belt with the new team?
Yeah, I mean, the first few weeks of preseason, and especially the first 1 or 2 games, probably you're just kind of blown off the cobwebs a little bit, and the stuff that you need to work on, and you will work on. But I think the difference between both games was, if you watch both of them back, you can see the slow improvements or the little things that are being changed. And I think obviously for the new guys coming in, we're trying to understand what the coach wants and how the other players have been playing, and just kind of getting used to playing with new players and new teammates on the field. So yeah, honestly, it's been good. It's been more so just about getting some minutes in the legs and kind of building up to the first game of the season. But yeah, I think there was obviously positives to take from both games. And yeah, I think come the season's starting, I think we'll be ready to go.
That's great. James, I'll throw it back to you before I keep running. I if you want, I'll keep throwing in questions in here. Got a lot to ask Ollie. Ollie and I think if we had unlimited time, we'd be here for hours.
I don't mind, man. I've got nothing else to do.
Well, yeah, I guess Carlos has taken my lead on where I wanted to go with getting used to the Rowdies. I know that we can't ask you to tell us, where you're going to play, but my other question then, I know that you said that people have told you in the past, people who have previously played in the USL, that the Rowdies was, I guess, an organization that you were relatively familiar with. Beforehand, when you were thinking about coming to the team, what had you heard about the team ahead of time? And then, I guess, what is the reputation within the professional ranks? Because that's something that we are not going to have a lot of information about. What do people hear from your side of the fence where people talk about the Rowdies and they say, oh, they've got this, they've got that. This is why they are a top club, or maybe even not. But yeah, what is the reputation?
Yeah, I mean, I think the reputation and the stuff that I heard back was, always positive. I don't think there was many. I mean, the only negative probably would be how hot it gets, but that is what it is. But I think, the general feedback and the comments that I received from other players that have played here or played against them was always positive. I think the new training facility is, you can't really ask for much more than that. 2 grass pitches, a turf pitch, and a gym, and we basically have everything we need day in, day out to be successful. Again, the stadium, it's not a shared stadium. You don't have to share it with anyone else. Like it's your, home field, and the grass is, immaculate. And then I just think the way the club is ran was one of the big things that stood out. I think they do the right things. They look after the players. They give the players kind of what they need. And even coming here and speaking to the other guys, they've all said the exact same thing. So, yeah, I think the way that people speak about the club from the outside is extremely positive. And yeah, I think obviously I spoke to a few guys in Canada as well, and they would always they mentioned some English players, obviously Joe Cole and players like that obviously used to play here, and that's always something that is that's also intriguing for me as well, coming from the UK, to see a player like that choose to come here as well. So yeah, I mean, like I said, the feedback has just been so positive, and I think coming here myself and seeing it like firsthand, it's definitely lived up so far to the things that people were saying to me, prior to arriving.
Well, that's all obviously very positive to hear, but it leads me then into my next question before I turn it back over to Carlos. The Canadian Premier League, you did a lot of positive things there, including winning I think the equivalent of the MVP for the league. And I guess when you get to a certain level where you're winning an MVP, generally players consider taking a step up, unless the step that they're already at is the highest that you can get to. So coming into the USL Championship, you haven't played any games yet, but is this, as far as you can see, a step up from the Canadian Premier League? And what is the next step for you to become, I guess, the next step of player that you can be?
Yeah, I mean, I think like obviously after 2022, that obviously year individually for me was a huge year. Winning the league with the team, and then individually, collecting the awards. And I think after that, naturally anyone would be looking to see what was next. But obviously I ended up staying for 2 more years, and then kind of carried on my form as best I could. And I think, people compare the CPL and the USL a lot, but I think obviously if a league's been around for as long as the USL has, and has the amount of teams it has, compared to a league that's only been around for maybe 5 or 6 years, I think naturally the level's probably a little bit higher. So for me, it was, I didn't really take too much convincing for me to come here. But, obviously I don't know what is going to happen in the future or whatever. But I think right now I just try to enjoy every day, and, not let a day or a training session or a game pass me by, and just give my best every day. So I don't like to think too much into the future. I just want to do as best as I can, where I'm at. And then, it's kind of been my mindset for the last 5 or 6 years, and it's kind of panned out, in a way that I never thought, would have been possible. I don't know. I remember like being in New Zealand, for example, and playing like semi-professionally. And I was like calling agents to try and get me to like even USL League 1 or League 2, or like, and they wouldn't even touch me from New Zealand. And I think if I look back at, that time, compare that to where I am now, I think it's obviously I don't really do that too often, but it's nice to look back on and then, kind of show that the hard work that I've put in has paid off.
That's a good outlook. That's probably a much better answer than I think I set you up for. So I appreciate that. That's a good outlook for me to take away from this. But Carlos, I will leave it back to you now.
Yeah, absolutely. That's incredible. And by the way, chatting about your career journey is fascinating too, because I feel like sometimes we get caught up in seeing these rather like linear professional paths. You hear about the youth sensations that get signed by the Madrids for like hundreds of millions of dollars off the bat and something crazy. Like the majority of players have these nonlinear stories, and I think it's really fascinating to hear your story from, obviously the UK to New Zealand to Canada, and now ultimately to the greatest club in the world, I would say. I'm a little biased in Tampa Bay, before anybody in St. Pete gets mad at me. And we've talked a bit about this transition, right? There's plenty of folks in the locker room who have been here for a while, right? You have your Leo Fernandezes, who are kind of the outliers. How long has Leo been here, James? Like six years now?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
A long time now. A lot of the new players that we've brought in this offseason are actually returning after having a spell with the Rowdies in the last 2 to 3 years. So there's a lot of continuity in the squad. There's a few new players joining us this offseason, like yourself, like Joey Skinner, Nicolas Campisi, the goalie, and Pasillas, our new striker. So there are a good chunk of new players joining the squad, but does it help to have like a core locker room that's been here for a while, and maybe who are some guys that have been able to kind of take you under their wing in this core and show you the ropes in Tampa Bay, the ins and outs of not just the club, but like you said, it's a new city entirely.
Yeah, I think it's always important to like go into a group that have been together for an extended period of time. I think, when you have older guys that have been, at the club for a while, you kind of come in and they set the standard in training and let you know like what they expect, day in, day out, along with obviously the coach Robbie and his coaching staff too. So yeah, I think it was obviously important for me to come into that sort of group. And actually, I think I came, 2 weeks before preseason, got underway just to get settled in and, train a little bit with some of the boys that were here during the off season, just to kind of be as fit and as ready to go as I could be. And I think ever since, I came here for the first day, I think everyone's been, so welcoming, and, it's an amazing group of guys. And yeah, I think everyone's kind of made me feel, welcome straight away and helped me settle in. And that's just allowed me to just play my game and then, train as best as I can. And yeah, I think the group we have is top. And yeah, I'm hoping that we can do some good things together this year.
Absolutely. You make a point, by the way. I totally forgot. You mentioned earlier that you actually haven't seen Al Lang Stadium yet, which is wild to me, but obviously renovations going on over there and whatnot. We're hoping we can get back there soon enough. We opened the season, Ollie, with a rather strange stretch of games, and James and I have talked about this a bit, with I think like 4 away games in a row, right? And you might be used to this having played in the CPL as well. There's a lot of travel back and forth, right? It's a lot more travel than many leagues around the world might be used to. Is that something that you'd say you're already used to? Are you prepared to make this, rather difficult transition to flying coast to coast for a weekend game? What's that thought process?
I mean, like for me, like the travel's like, I've been so used to it the last 3 or 4 years. I think, we did a crazy trip in 2021. It was West Coast all the way to the East Coast, Pacific to Halifax. And that was like, I don't know, 9-10 hours with a few stops. So for me, it's like, it's something that I've done before. I don't like it, I absolutely hate it. But, it's something that, I'm relatively, used to. But I think, when we play within conference, I think it will be nicer to have, some closer away games rather than having to travel, 4 or 5 hours, across country every other week. So yeah, obviously I'm relatively used to it. I've done it for 3 or 4 years now, but yeah, it's obviously not something that is too enjoyable.
Yeah. Now, one more thing that might not be enjoyable is there are still a lot of clubs around this league that may or may not have turf or play in actual baseball stadiums, and I won't name names, but James probably knows who I'm talking about. But yeah, Ollie, Again, thanks for answering all these questions. I'm out of serious questions. I can start peppering you with Tampa-related questions if you want. James, do you have anything else we should throw in here?
No, I think we're good to. I think we're good to get into the rapid fire. Let's jump into those Tampa ones, and then I'll do my my usual rapid fire ones.
All right, I'll give you a few, and then I'll turn it back over to James. Ollie, one thing you want to do at the top of your bucket list in the Tampa Bay area now that you've moved here?
I'd say honestly, no. I'd say I like to play golf, so like I want to check out some courses and that because I've heard the courses here are nice.
Yeah.
When we get a day off or two, probably go for a round or try and get some rounds in.
Yeah, good choice. I like that. Okay, 2, best food you've eaten in the area yet, or something you want to try as well.
In the area,
A lot of good Cuban food, a lot of Colombian food around here, a lot of Hispanic food. I don't know if that's something you got.
I tried a Peruvian restaurant the other day. That was pretty good, actually. I like Peruvian food. Yeah. I tried Chipotle for it was our first time, like the other week or something like that.
Okay.
That was all right. Like it was all right. I prefer Nando's. You guys heard of Nando's before?
Oh, I love Nando's. Absolutely love Nando's.
Yeah. So for context, I live in. Here, though. There's not. I live in Arlington, Virginia right now, Ollie. And right across the bridge, I can see it from my apartment. There's a Nando's right over there. Changed my life the first time I had it. Changed my life.
So good. How good? What'd you get? What'd you get when you go?
I just get a sandwich with the spiciest peri peri sauce they have. And it's incredible. Yeah, and if you're listening to this and you haven't had a chance to try Nando's, I don't know where the nearest one would be.
I think the closest one to us is where you are, Carlos.
Is it really? It might be in Virginia. Yeah. Well, Ollie, next time we play Loudoun United, you can make a trip over.
I've got to go.
And next time you're, I'll treat you to a Nando's sandwich when you're out here.
All right, I'll hold you to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, final question on my end. Your favorite club growing up?
Oh, Aston Villa.
Okay.
Yeah, easy. Yeah.
All right, James, I'll turn it back over to you.
All right. Well, I did want to ask you a little bit about I guess I should have said this before, but one more serious question. I believe you represented Northern Ireland briefly on the international stage. So if you could give us just the quickest little background on that, and then I'll go down that route.
Yeah. Obviously, my mom's from Belfast, Northern Ireland, so that's how I was able to represent them. And I think that came about when after I made my debut in League Two for Yeovil. I think at the time it got made a few headlines, I guess, because I think I was the youngest player to represent the club in the EFL. And then I think that the Northern Ireland FA kind of caught on to that and picked up on that. And then they invited me down for like a training camp or something like that. And then, I represented them during I think it was a U19, European qualifiers. So it was pretty cool and, a special moment. I think my mom was, over the moon when that happened. So it was good.
Gotcha. Well, I'm a big fan of international football, especially. So that is cool to hear. But my question then comes from that. England are playing Northern Ireland. Let's say it's possibly a more even matchup than we might expect right now. Who would you prefer win that game?
Like the teams are 50-50 or
it's a 50-50 chance. It's not as lopsided as it might be in present day, let's say.
Mom, I'm sorry. I'll say England. I was born in England, so, and obviously I've been every time we play in the Euros or World Cup, I always say that we're going to win it. So I have to stand by it.
Gotcha. Well, that's fair. All right. My next question for you then is, who is the best player that you have ever played with, either on your team or as an opponent over the course of your career?
Like youth career or just senior?
Any part of your career, anybody that you played with. Like we recently interviewed Jan Ekra. I don't think we actually got to this during the interview, but he grew up playing with Karim Benzema a little bit. So that was one.
Playing with... trying to think
Hard hitting
Villa.
questions.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think back to Villa. I think. God, I can't even think. Playing against, I would say probably like Reece James or Tammy Abraham, someone like that. Someone who was in the Chelsea academy at a similar time. You know, their like youth system during that time was just like incredible. They would just beat every team, 4, 5, 6-0, every single week. Playing with, I think Grealish was in the system, or he was a few years older than me in the academy during that time. I don't think I ever played in a game with him, but I certainly, trained with him a few times, and I think he's probably up there. And then there'd probably be a few boys that, are playing in the Championship and League One right now that, aren't massive names, but, have gone on to have, a few, good careers for themselves. So I'd say some of them guys, yeah.
Those are some pretty famous names. So that is pretty cool. Those are definitely standouts. And we have seen Jack Grealish just yesterday and what he can do. So my next question for you then goes a little bit off of what Carlos was asking as well. And if you could have any cheat day food from anywhere in the world, I feel like I might know the answer, but what would that be for you?
Well, Nando's isn't a cheat. It depends what you get. Like, it's relatively healthy. It's not that bad. It depends it's grilled chicken, so it can't be like that bad.
True.
What's your order?
I go. It's either like, I don't know if they have the same menu in the UK or as they have in the States, but I'm there like twice a week in England, like for sure. I'll either do like the grilled chicken pitta, like peri tamer, I think it is. It's like peri with like a hint of barbecue. Next time you go, you should actually try it. It's fire.
Yeah.
With like the spicy rice and the peri salted like fries or chips.
Nice.
Yeah, that's top. I'd say that, or like just pizza or something like that.
I'll throw in here that I went with a healthier option. I got like a chicken Caesar wrap from Nando's recently, which was interesting because I didn't know how that would go, and I think that changed my life too. So
how do you think how good do you think it is? Like, is it as good as everyone says it is? Because we love it over in the UK.
You know what? First time I tried it, and this was a long time ago. This was when I was a bit younger, and you might know like the Sidemen, right, on YouTube. Like these were guys I watch, and they're always hyping up Nando's and Nando's this, and I was like, I got to try this one day. First time I tried it, I thought it was overrated. I won't lie. I was like, this is all right. Second time I tried it, I understood. So if there's nothing you get from this interview today, if you're listening to this, other than you should try Nando's at some point, take this with you. When you come up to the road trip against Loudoun United and you want to make a quick pit stop, and you're like, what are we gonna get for dinner? Come to Roslyn, Virginia, and get yourself some Nando's. We're not even paid by Nando's. We should be sponsored.
We should be sponsored. The amount of times I go, I should be, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. Eureka, the producer in the walls in the background, makes a point here that we're not sponsored yet. So if anyone from Nando's is listening and wants to give Ollie or RBLR or both of us, we'll bag. We're here for it. So.
And also a restaurant. We would like one of those down in the Tampa Bay area.
Yeah. Absolutely. James, anything else on your end?
No, I think we're all good. I don't want to go into my Nando's experience in Dundee when I visited Scotland, because I don't even remember what I ordered. We'll have to be here all day for the amount of things that my wife and I bought, but we'll just leave it there and call it a good one.
Fantastic. Ollie, I appreciate you joining us again. This is awesome. Like I said, it's always great to hear a bit about a new player's career, where they came from, what kind of makes them tick, what food they like, right? So this is really awesome, and I'm hoping that anybody that listens to this gets a feel for the type of person you are, gets excited for the season again, and I'm just thrilled to have you at this club. Ollie, is awesome.
Thank you, guys. No, I really appreciate you guys having me on, and we should have a good year together.
Absolutely.
All right, I appreciate it, Ollie.
Thank you.
And that was our interview with Ollie Bassett. Again, they spent a lot of time talking about Nando's, but other than that, it's such a interesting journey, I think, for all these players on how they get to the USL Championship. And for Ollie to say, like, at one point in his life, he couldn't even get sniffed at by League One, League Two teams. But here he is now with hardware and accolades and everything behind him. And now he's a member of your Tampa Bay Rowdies. So James and Carlos, again, another great interview. We've had Jan Ekra on during this offseason. We've had Sebastian Dalgard on the program in the last month, and now we've got Ollie Bassett with even more to come as we get ready for the season. So stay tuned. Make sure you're subscribed, though. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, whatever platform you're listening or watching this on right now. Be the first person to know when we interview another person or when we talk about the games and the scrimmages and there's a few new signings that are about to be announced by the team. So you're going to want to know everything there is to know about those people. So we're at RBLR Rowdies on all forms of social media. And then, of course, hit the YouTube. So before we leave, I wanted to end this mega week of RBLR coverage. I figured I'd give you my notes on Montreal that I went to, and I was not at Tormenta, but kind of keeping up with the tweets and some of the things we were able to dig into. I have a couple notes on that too. So in the Montreal game, which was wonderful here, it was in Auburndale. It was free to the public. I'd say it was hundreds and hundreds of people, if not like a couple. I don't know if it was a couple thousand, but it was tons of families, tons of awesome people that were there to watch Montreal. But there were so many Rowdies colors. It was a very, very, very good sight to see. Maybe some of those people that live closer to the city. It starts with an O that I won't talk about, but people that live out here in Polk County, people that live, Lakeland, Auburndale, Winter Haven, things like that, get to see their favorite team. So I thought that was really great. But unfortunately, for the first 15 minutes, we really didn't do all that well. And so the lineup in that game, there were quite a few people that were not playing in the starting 11 because of just some. I got the news; it was slight knocks, nothing too crazy. But we did put out a starting lineup of Nico Campisi in goal, Lawrence Wyke, Robert Castellanos, and Aaron Guillen making up a back three, with a midfield of Pacific Nyongabire, Nate Worth, the Ollie Bassett, the man we just talked to, Danny Chrysostomo, Blake Bodley. So if you notice there's no Lasso, there's no Hilton, there's no Moon. But again, it was slight knocks, no biggie. Obviously, Lasso still trying to get his feet underneath him. Up top, though, a new duo of Wubens Passius and, of course, Manuel Arteaga. So I was really interested to see how the new guys, right? You've got Castellanos coming back. You've got Lawrence Wyke coming back. You've got Ollie Bassett integrating in the midfield. You've got Wubens up top. So it's just so many. We got, you want to say new pieces, but some of the returning pieces. And it's a very similar system to what they had with the short times that they were here with Neil Collins. But although it's similar, you never know how it's going to work until you see it in action. And unfortunately, first 15 minutes, Montreal kind of ran all over us, but they didn't score anything. They weren't really giving up chances for Montreal until they did break one. Number 28 on the right-hand side, if I remember right. He comes off just on the right-hand side. He makes a play behind the line, one-on-one against Campisi, and it's just a 50-50 ball. And they buried it for Montreal. After conceding that first goal, though, from 16 minutes to 45 in the first half, we were the dominant team. We were the dominant team in possession, but neither team could really create like actual teeth. For instance, in the first half, Montreal had 2 shots on goal. One of them was a goal, and Tampa Bay had 1 shot on goal. In the second half, Montreal did score again. I was on the other side of the pitch, so I didn't really see how that happened. But after giving up that second goal, we made a very, very good defensive stop. We were playing very high press, very aggressive, very high. And one of the midfielders comes up with the ball, and it was kind of an aerial duel. It came to the feet of the defender, of the Rowdies defender, gets it, plays it amazing through ball to the left to Woobens, who then you could see clips on the Rowdy social media. Woobens gets it, creates space, blows by a defender, makes his own one-on-one attempt, and he buries it. And it's really good because Woobens is very tall and he's very quick. And I think he has, and he showed here against Montreal that he's got he's very tall, so he could be a target of like crosses and things like that. And I think they will do that from the wings, especially with Nyongabire and Bodley on the wings. But he's also quick enough that he can create his own chances when given like a one-on-one opportunity to get by a defender. I think he can do this. And he's also physical enough. He's not a very, like, my first glances at him were, he's not a gigantic target man like, say, Steven Dos Santos or something like that. But he's much quicker, much more agile. But I think he still can get physical if he needs to kind of, if there's a bunch of guys in the box who need to body up, and then he, goes for a header or something like that. So he was the standout to me on offense because he was able to create and score a goal. But the other person was Ollie Bassett, man. And I'm not just saying it because we just spent a lot of time talking to him, and this is sort of the Ollie Bassett episode. But man, if you like high energy, hard workers, buddy, him and if Hilton as a defensive and Bassett as an offensive, so if we run maybe a diamond in the midfield, he's going to be a lot of fans' favorite guy. Ollie Bassett running around, just high motor, high energy, high intensity. I was very, 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 very happy with him, and he shaded kind of behind the strikers in the middle. So when I'm able to get to Al Lang and see more of a top-down view of everything, I wonder where exactly he flows in the system. But for one game on the sidelines, he was noticeable moving around up top towards the offensive attacking side. The other note that I had that was good was Campisi is very, very vocal. If you like your goalkeepers to be communicating at all times, he was communicating with people in two different languages. He was yelling at Guillen in Spanish. He's yelling at Castellanos in Spanish. He's yelling, he's saying left, right, up, down. I mean, he was getting after it. I loved it. And I'm a big fan of very vocal goalkeepers. I think that a lot of times those keepers can be your captains on the field. If we didn't already have an Aaron Guillen, you need a guy who's just yelling. I mean, Lauro was very vocal. Lasso's very vocal when he's in there. So more communication is better for a defense. And this is very high level communication and hopefully turns into high level defense. Today, though, the Rowdies did play South Georgia Tormenta SC. And looking at that lineup, it was very similar. Very similar. It was Nico Campisi in goal with Van Keezel starting instead of Wyke, and then Castellanos in the middle and Guillen in that back three. Then a midfield of Pacific Nyongabire, trialist, which is an unannounced signee that the Rowdies just have not announced yet, but that trialist, I believe, has played multiple friendlies now. We're just waiting on the word to when he will be announced. Ollie Bassett starting in the middle with Crisostomo and Bodley, again with Passius and Arteaga up top. Except that at the very last second, that was what was posted. At the very last second, Ollie Bassett was actually, now that I remember, he was on the last second. Leo Fernandez started in that spot. But our unnamed trialist, scored a goal, which if I have it right, I believe it's the second or maybe third goal that the unnamed trialist has scored in this preseason so far. Manuel Arteaga, though, had a goal. And then around 20 to 30 minutes, I believe, is when Ollie came out or Leo comes out, Ollie comes back in. At halftime, Rowdies are up 2-0. Then the trialists just now these trialists are mostly unsigned academy kids that, and they're very young. There's a very young roster of camp bodies, I guess, that they're taking extended looks at some of these young guys. I would assume that a couple of these, if not all of them, are going to be integrated at some point as academy, or at least guys that can show up and be part of the practice squad and things like that. With maybe a couple of them getting the nod to be on the bench for a couple games, but so far there's still about 3 weeks left in the preseason, and in the Montreal game, especially after about 65 minutes, all of the core Rowdies players had been subbed out for these trialists that were, barely, if they're out of high school, it would shock me. So, but that was it. There was a trialist goal. I don't know who the name of that was, but at that time, I believe most of the starters, other than maybe Guillen and Crisostomo, had been taken out of the game. So it was one of the trialists that scored. So South Georgia Tormenta, we love playing them every preseason. It's oh yeah, here we go. We love a multilingual keeper. Thank you. Yeah, it's other than the really, really young trialists, it's been kind of a good, steady preseason, in my opinion. In the games that I've been able to watch, and some of the news and notes that I'm able to take here, is that as much new tinkering that is needed to be done, it's very steady. It's very much like a veteran leadership mixing in with high quality technical ability, because you would assume that normally bringing in 4 new starters that you'd have to get people acclimated, but there's this perfect mix of, you've kind of been in the system before, you've played with the players that you're next to before. It's sort of like wearing comfortable shoes but putting brand new laces and cleaning them up a bit, like or maybe a new insole. I don't know where this is taking me, but it's like it's familiar but new and improved all at the same time, and that's sort of the feeling that I get. That's very encouraging. They're playing very high, they're playing very aggressive, and that's what's leading to them conceding some goals. But in no way, shape, or form do I ever think that they were like out of control or sloppy or not unfit, things like that. So maybe that's my green and gold tinted glasses telling me that something I want to see. But as far as I can tell, there's no reason to not be excited that we're at least going to be a very, very well conditioned, well run. Like the floor is very high. I don't know where to tell you where the ceiling is of this team right now, because there's still so much to go. There's still, like I said, 2-3 weeks left in the preseason. So Robbie, even when I got to speak to him at post game, Robbie was saying, yeah, there's things we need to work on, and there's things, but the more we get them fit, the more, and the fact that there is this level of kind of continuity, basically, that they're able to be implementing more of the tactical things and less of the, okay, can we get these guys to gain shape? We're doing less of that and more of, okay, how do we build upon what we did last year? How do we get the guys that are in year 2 of the system kind of unlocking that level, while also bringing up, tons of these guys that have, again, Ollie Bassett was the MVP of the Canadian Premier League. Whatever you think about the level of that play, he was the best player in it for one season. And, Castellanos is coming back from the MLS stint. Lawrence Wyke is coming back from an MLS stint mixed in with like Phoenix run. So you have tons of talent, but they're not just unlimited talent with no cachet, no hardware, no accolades behind them, other than maybe Nate Worth, who is, kind of the sky is the limit for that kid. Well, I mean, he's 18 now, right? But the sky is such the limit for him that I don't think we're going to see his final form for a few years. So he'll be constantly improving. But a lot of these guys, they are at the peak of their powers, and they're here at the right time. So with all that said, I'm excited to at least know that it's a very sound, capable squad at the moment, and I can't wait to see when we finally get to see them play for real in the green and gold. So I think that's going to be everything that I have here tonight. Thank you for everyone who's tuned in here. Once again, I will remind you that if you like what you've heard, if you've been here this long, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It's absolutely free, and it's the one thing that helps us just immensely. And you can do it just by clicking the button. Also, if you're on whatever social media platform you're on, we are there too. We're on Blue Sky, we're on X, we're on Threads, we're on Instagram, we're everywhere you are at RBLR Rowdies. And of course, if you're seeing my beautiful face in that brand new intro video that we've been sneaking in this week, if you haven't seen that, go check out the intro video. We're working hard on it, and as new memories get unlocked, maybe there's new clips that we'll put in there after this season. So that is at youtube.com/@RBLR Sports. So I would say for a double dose of the Rowdies this week, you got Kartik Krishner. We talked about USL Division 1 yesterday. You got Ollie Bassett, one of the newest members of the Rowdies. You got a double dose of the Rowdies. And so for that, I will say thank you. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. And we can't wait to see you next time. So from all of us here at RBLR Sports, my name is Eureka Wheeler. Come on, you Rowdies.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.